What if the person sleeping next to you right now slowly became a stranger? Imagine watching your supportive, ambitious partner transform into someone who stays up until 6 a.m. gaming, refuses to work, and treats your tears with cold indifference. Today's story isn't just about relationship changes. It's about the terrifying reality of discovering the person you fell in love with might have been wearing a mask all along. Today's story explores exactly that kind of heartbreaking metamorphosis, a tale of how a seemingly perfect relationship crumbled into a nightmare of codependency and frustration. Our storyteller met her fiancé when she was just 21, and he swept her off her feet with flowers, dates, and endless emotional support. But 3 years later, she found herself working 2 full-time jobs while he stayed up until 6 a.m. gaming and refusing to work. How does someone go from Prince Charming to barely functioning? And more importantly, how do you know when you're supporting someone through a rough patch versus enabling destructive patterns? This story resonates with so many of us because it taps into our deepest relationship fears. The possibility that the person we fell in love with might not be who they appeared to be. Think about it. How many of us have ignored early warning signs, choosing to believe in the potential we saw rather than the reality unfolding before us? It's a pattern as old as romance itself, yet we still find ourselves caught in its web, hoping we'll be the exception to the rule. What makes this particular story so compelling is how gradually the transformation occurred. Like a frog in slowly heating water, our storyteller didn't realize the full extent of the changes until she was already deeply committed. It's a cautionary tale about the masks we wear in relationships, the true nature that eventually emerges, and the difficult decisions we face when reality doesn't match our expectations. As we dive into this emotional journey, I want you to think about your own relationships. Have you ever witnessed a similar transformation? What were the first signs you noticed? And most importantly, at what point do we owe it to ourselves to acknowledge that a person's actions speak louder than their past promises? When Emily first met Jake, he seemed like everything she'd ever dreamed of in a partner. Have you ever experienced that magical feeling when someone checks every box on your ideal partner list? That's exactly where Emily found herself. Jake worked as a successful software developer, bringing both stability and intellectual stimulation to their relationship. He always made time for thoughtful dates, proving that even with his demanding career, she was a priority. What really set him apart was how he showed genuine interest in her goals and aspirations, asking detailed questions about her day and remembering even the smallest details she shared. Their early days were filled with surprise flower deliveries to her workplace, not just on special occasions, but random Tuesdays when she least expected it. Their weekend adventures ranged from spontaneous road trips to cozy museum visits, creating a tapestry of shared experiences. The long conversations about their future together weren't just vague dreams. They mapped out specific goals, from where they'd live to how they'd balance their careers with starting a family. Jake supported Emily's career ambitions in healthcare with actions, not just words. While she buried herself in medical textbooks and certification exam preparations, he took charge of their daily life, often cooking elaborate meals and handling household responsibilities without being asked. They moved in together after a year of dating, a transition that felt as natural as breathing. His proposal, a meticulously planned scavenger hunt that incorporated meaningful locations from their relationship, ended at their favorite restaurant where both families waited to celebrate. Friends and family constantly remarked on how perfect they seemed together, how their life goals aligned like perfectly matched puzzle pieces. Emily felt like she'd won the relationship lottery. Finding someone who was both professionally ambitious and emotionally available seemed like striking gold in today's dating landscape. Looking back now, she realizes these memories make the present situation even more painful to bear, serving as a stark reminder of how dramatically things can change. The transformation began subtly, almost imperceptibly. It started with Jake calling in sick to work more frequently, claiming he needed mental health days. Emily was supportive at first. After all, burnout is real, and everyone needs breaks. But these occasional days off evolved into weeks of unemployment when he suddenly quit his job without having another lined up. He assured her it was temporary, that he just needed time to find something more fulfilling. The gaming hobby that used to occupy a few hours on weekends gradually expanded to all-night sessions, his sleep schedule inverting completely. Their once lively dinner conversations were replaced by silence, broken only by the clicking of his keyboard and the glow of his monitor. Emily would wake up at 6 a.m. for her hospital shifts to find him still awake, empty energy drink cans surrounding his gaming setup. When she tried to discuss her concerns, he'd become defensive, insisting he was networking with his gaming friends about potential job opportunities. The man who once planned their future now couldn't plan beyond his next gaming session. Let's examine the core psychological dynamic at play here. Jake's pattern reveals classic signs of avoidant attachment and possible depression masking deeper issues. His cycling between jobs mirrors his emotional cycling, brief periods of engagement followed by withdrawal and self-sabotage. The gaming addiction and porn use aren't just symptoms, they're emotional anesthetics, numbing him from confronting his own patterns of failure and dependency. Meanwhile, Emily's increasing workload isn't just about money. It's a trauma response to abandonment fears, desperately trying to control their deteriorating situation through sheer force of will. Have you ever watched someone you love slowly give up? That's what Emily experienced day after day as Jake's attempts at finding work became increasingly half-hearted. The pattern was painfully predictable. He'd land interviews through his impressive resume, built from his once promising career, but either skip them entirely or sabotage them with unrealistic salary demands, sometimes asking for double the market rate. When he did manage to secure positions, he'd quit within weeks, always with a new excuse: toxic workplace culture, unreasonable expectations, or conflicts with management. One particularly telling incident involved him walking out mid-shift because his supervisor asked him to lead a team meeting. Their apartment, once a source of pride with its carefully curated decor and weekend dinner parties, began to show signs of neglect. Dishes piled up, laundry remained undone, and takeout containers multiplied. All while Emily worked 60-hour weeks between her hospital shifts and clinic duties. The emotional toll became evident in their rare interactions, which had devolved from loving conversations to tense exchanges filled with passive-aggressive comments. Jake's formerly supportive nature had been replaced by bitter comments about corporate slaves and how Emily was obsessed with working. The man who once celebrated her ambition now seemed to resent it, making snide remarks whenever she had to work late or picked up extra shifts to compensate for their financial shortfall. Most concerning was his complete lack of awareness about how his behavior affected their relationship and their future. When friends or family tried to point out the changes in his attitude, he'd dismiss their concerns with elaborate justifications, blaming the job market, the economy, or society's expectations, anything but his own choices. The distance between them grew with each passing day, measured not just in the hours Emily spent at work, but in the emotional chasm that had formed between two people who once shared everything. The wake-up call came when Emily discovered Jake had been hiding their mounting credit card debt. While he claimed to be cutting back on expenses, he had secretly been charging hundreds of dollars on gaming equipment and in-game purchases. Have you ever had that gut-wrenching moment when you realize someone you trust has been lying to you? That's where Emily found herself, staring at credit card statements that told a very different story from Jake's promises. This discovery coincided with their landlord's email about a rent increase and Emily's growing awareness that she was carrying their entire financial burden. She was working overtime at her job, skipping lunch to save money, while Jake spent hours in his gaming chair, headset on, disconnected from reality. The signs had been there. Unopened bills pushed under magazines, vague answers about job applications, and the growing distance between them at dinner. But it wasn't just about money anymore. During a rare moment when she managed to get Jake to talk, really talk, he revealed something that chilled her. His ex-girlfriend had apparently left him for similar reasons 2 years before they met. He'd gone through the same pattern, quitting jobs, gaming obsessively, withdrawing emotionally. Think about it. How many chances should someone get to repeat the same destructive behaviors? Emily's mind raced through the past year. The missed family gatherings, the dwindling savings account, the promises of change that lasted barely a week. She realized she wasn't witnessing a temporary rough patch or a mental health crisis. She was seeing a pattern that Jake had no real intention of breaking. This wasn't just about supporting a partner through hard times. She was enabling a cycle that would likely continue indefinitely. Let's be honest. Relationships require work, patience, and understanding. But there's a crucial difference between supporting someone through genuine efforts to change and becoming trapped in someone else's recurring narrative. Emily had to face the hardest question of all. Was she prepared to star in the same story that had already played out with Jake's ex, hoping for a different ending? When Emily shared her story online, the response was overwhelming and unanimous, a flood of over 2,000 comments that painted a clear and concerning picture. Have you ever noticed how sometimes the wisdom of crowds can cut through confusion with startling clarity? That's exactly what happened here. Experienced voices pointed out that Jake's initial perfect behavior was likely a carefully crafted facade, one he couldn't maintain after moving in together. Many shared similar experiences, describing partners who showed their true colors only after achieving certain relationship milestones. One commenter's story particularly resonated. He was Prince Charming until the lease was signed. Then suddenly he couldn't handle basic adult responsibilities. The pattern was strikingly familiar. For anyone recognizing these warning signs, the community outlined crucial steps. First, document the cycles of engagement and withdrawal. Keep detailed records of behavioral patterns and shared expenses. Second, create a private emergency fund and secure important documents. Third, set clear, time-bound boundaries. I need to see active job searching with weekly updates. Fourth, make professional help non-negotiable, both individual and couples therapy. Fifth, protect yourself financially with separate accounts and clear expense agreements. Finally, develop an exit strategy before you need one. Mental health professionals in the comments emphasized that while depression can impact motivation, Jake's selective dysfunction suggested deeper issues. They stressed that supporting someone through struggles is admirable, but not at the cost of your own mental, emotional, and financial health. Several commenters noted the parallel with his previous relationship, suggesting this was an established pattern. They urged Emily to recognize that at 24, she had time to rebuild a life without carrying the weight of someone who refused to carry their own. As one wise voice put it, you can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't build a future with someone who's actively undermining the foundation. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever ignored relationship red flags because you were focused on who someone used to be rather than who they became? What's your breaking point between supporting someone and enabling them? Share your experiences below. Your story could help someone else recognize these patterns before it's too late. And if you're currently living this story, remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. The perfect partner who swept her off her feet 3 years ago was a role Jake could play, but not sustain. His pattern of behavior, revealed through both their relationship and his past, demonstrates that real change requires genuine desire and effort, not just promises and temporary performances. For those watching who might see echoes of their own relationships in this story, remember, supporting someone through difficult times shouldn't mean sacrificing your own well-being indefinitely. There's a fine line between being patient with a partner's struggles and enabling destructive patterns. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do, both for yourself and your partner, is to stop participating in a cycle that serves neither of you. Emily's journey from enchantment to disillusionment reminds us that love alone cannot fix someone who doesn't want to change.